It was always the same every year in Millstone Ridge. On True Flags Day, every porch had to be decorated with the town-issued red, white, and blue flags, one for every family member. The rule was passed down, unwritten but enforced, like gravity or the dead silence that followed every church bell. At midnight, we'd always laughed at how obsessive folks got about it. One year, old Mrs. Kenner forgot to hang her flags before dusk. The next morning, her front door was covered in tar, and all her porch lilies had been hacked to mulch. Another time, a teenager dared to raise a black flag as a joke. He moved away the same week, or so we were told. I never saw his folks again. I should have known better. Last year, I forgot. Not by choice. I'd been drinking too much after Marlene left. I barely remembered the date, let alone some hokey town tradition. At 11:50 p.m., I woke up to tapping. Tap, 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 like a broomstick against my window, then a whisper. Elijah, your flags. I looked outside. Nothing but moonlight and a gently rocking American flag across the street. The same breeze didn't move mine, because there were none. I was late. I stumbled out to the porch, still in my underwear, and fumbled through the shed to find the old box of town flags. My hands shook. I stabbed my finger on a staple in the process. Blood dotted the third flag before I even hung it. It was 11:58. I remember this because as I was hanging the last flag, the church bell rang once, then again, but not 12 times, 13. And on the 13th toll, I saw something at the end of the street. A figure, tall and thin, wrapped in fluttering flag fabric like a cloak, face obscured by a stitched mask that looked like a bald eagle's beak. He moved, not walking, but gliding, flags snapping in a wind that had vanished. And the air changed. It wasn't cold. It wasn't hot. It just stopped, moving. Every porch light dimmed. He pointed at me. I backed inside, locked the door, and pressed my eye to the peephole. He was right there. No footsteps. No time. Just there. He didn't knock. He didn't have to. All 13 flags on my porch lifted at once, despite the still air. They waved. Not in unison, but like they were reaching for me. And then, they dropped. Gone. So was the figure. I collapsed on the floor, sweating, heart hammering. It was 12:01. That was a year ago. This year, I didn't forget. Not only did I hang the flags, I doubled the number. I painted my house in stripes. I played the town anthem on repeat. I even sang along, but it didn't matter, because last night the flags started waving again. No wind, no sound, just movement, and a shadow longer than my fence stretching across the lawn. They say you only get one warning. I think I missed mine, and now I can hear him whispering through the wood grain, through the air vents, through the stars. The flag never forgets. The 13th Regiment. They told me not to return to Calico Ford. After the war, I drifted. I drank, I prayed. Mostly, I tried to forget the men who screamed for their mothers in the dark pine thickets of Tennessee. But nothing, no whiskey, no prayer, no woman, ever made me forget that night in Calico. The townsfolk had a tradition, True Flags Day. It wasn't national. It wasn't celebrated outside of that hollow, tick-infested county. They claimed it began before the war, before any war. Said it was older than the land grant, older than the railroad, older even than the Shawnee burial mounds, just past the ridge. I arrived there in 1866 on assignment from a colonel who wanted a census of rebel towns for reconstruction purposes. I wore blue, but I was tired of killing. I thought counting people was as harmless as work could be. They met me with smiles, tight and strange. Everyone had flags outside their homes, not just stars and stripes, but faded hand-stitched things. Some with 13 stars, others with 13 eyes, I swear to God. I stayed at the boarding house run by Widow Dawes, a brittle old woman with wrists like broom handles and a gaze like she could read your final thoughts. She told me to stay inside after sundown on the 13th of June. True Flags Day, she said, teeth clacking. We honor the ones who never came home. Fallen soldiers, I asked. No, dear, the ones who stayed behind. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I heard it. Drums, not the joyful kind. Slow, funereal, and something else. Metal clinking. Chains? I peeked out the window. They were marching. A regiment, it looked like, but not right. They didn't move like men. They didn't step. They floated. Dust didn't kick up from their boots. Their flags waved without breeze. And their faces were blank. Each had a flag wrapped tight around their heads, as if sewn on. Blood soaked through the seams. Their arms hung too long, rifles clutched by splintered fingers. And at the front, leading them, was a man in full Union blues. My uniform. He turned to look straight at me. Somehow I knew his name. Captain Orland Drew. He'd gone missing in the Valley skirmish outside Calico in '63. They said he'd been ambushed by Confederates and buried with honors somewhere in the woods. They were wrong. He raised his hand, and every flag in the town lifted skyward. I tried to leave the next morning, but my horse was missing. No tracks, no struggle, just a pile of ash in the stable. Widow Dawes gave me tea. You're marked now. The 13th saw you. The what? She looked around the room like the walls could hear her. The 13th Regiment. They were raised in secret, not by a state, not by the Union, by the land itself. 13 men conscripted not to fight flesh and blood, but something beneath it. I laughed. I actually laughed. I told her I'd seen men blown apart by cannonballs, burned alive in church basements. Ghost stories were for children. She didn't laugh back. They fought the original war, Mr. Weller. Not over states, not over slavery, over memory, over what gets forgotten. I left that day on foot, determined to find the rail line. Got as far as the creek, where I found a tree split by lightning, and 13 nooses tied in its branches. Beneath it, carved in the bark, were words I'll never forget. Every flag is a mouth, and mouths must be fed. I made it back to Cincinnati a week later, sick with fever, shaking. Nobody believed a word. That was 25 years ago. Now it's 1891, June 13th, and outside my home in Ohio, I swear I saw a flag waving, though the air is still. My dog won't go near the porch, and the tea I left untouched last night. It's gone cold, and the cup is filled with ash, so I'm writing this down in case anyone finds me, because they found me again. I hear the drums, and this time, I don't think they're marching past. Static on Channel 13. I was stationed at Camp Mercer out in the Mojave back in 1983. The place didn't officially exist. One of those old military ghost bases from the Cold War era. We called it the Static Post because half our gear barely worked and every channel on the secure feed was half white noise and half dread. That's not a poetic phrase. I mean it. Dread. You could feel it in the concrete, like the building itself didn't want us there. My job was communications, relay, bouncing encrypted transmissions between Western defense points and covert surveillance satellites. It was boring work, until it wasn't. One night on June 13th, I got a ping. A classified frequency flickered on. Channel 13? A channel that wasn't supposed to exist. I remember the code word that came through. True flag active. We all looked at each other. The other two guys in the relay room, Hernandez and Mallory, sat bolt upright. The words had come through with the sound I still hear in my sleep, like radio static being chewed. Then a face appeared on the screen. No insignia, no name. Just a man in a crumpled government suit, eyes dead and wide, like someone was holding them open from the inside. He spoke one sentence: prepare the nation to receive signal. Then the screen went black. We ran diagnostics, assumed it was a prank, a hack, maybe even a psychological test. But then every flag on base turned toward the satellite dish array. I mean that literally. Each one pivoted mid-air, without wind, and started shaking. We filed a report. No one acknowledged it. The next day, 2 agents from some letter department I'd never heard of, NIDP I think it was, showed up to debrief us. Mallory made jokes. Hernandez made coffee. I stared at the wall and waited to be told it was all in our heads. Instead, they made us watch footage, old footage. An Air Force technician, mouth sewn shut, waving a tiny flag in front of a Cold War-era broadcast dish, his eyes weeping blood. He collapsed mid-wave. The flag kept moving. Then they said something I've never forgotten. Certain signals pass through the national consciousness, not the airwaves. They broadcast through belief. Patriotism is just the delivery mechanism. We were told we'd participated in a successful reactivation of the True Flag Protocol, a Cold War failsafe project. No further explanation. 2 days later, Mallory vanished, left his boots, keys, even his skin ID card, just gone. Hernandez shot himself in the comms room, left a note. It's still waving, Logan. I left the military 3 years later, tried to forget, got a tech job in Chicago, grew a beard, got married, got divorced, and every year on June 13th, I see it again. Channel 13. It flickers on my TV even when it's unplugged. My phone locks and displays that same phrase, True Flag Active. Last year, a drone hovered over my backyard. Red, white, and blue decals on the side. No serial, no blinking lights. It just watched. When I moved toward it, it began to hum the national anthem in reversed static. So tonight, I'm doing the only thing I can. I've set up every radio I own to record. I've tuned everything. My scanner, my old TV, even a goddamn Walkman, to Channel 13. Because this year, it's not just the messages. The flag itself came to me. I woke up with the bed sheets twisted into a tri-corner shape. The corners bled red. There were 13 white stars stitched across my chest. And when I tried to rip them off, I heard it. You belong to the signal now. If you're reading this, and it's June 13th, don't salute, don't sing, don't pledge. Whatever's on the flag isn't us anymore. They used the war, the media, the Patriot games. They used us. Now they're done hiding, and the signal's going national. End of transmission. Wow, now that last one really got to me. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please, as usual, like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for my next uploads. And those uploads are gonna be plenty this month, 'cause I'm not ignoring the elephant in the room. In such a short amount of time, we have exploded. Yes, literally exploded in subscribers, in which I can't thank each and every one of you enough for, but that will be in a separate announcement video that'll do something a little different compared to what I normally do. Up next are Father's Day horror stories, and those are gonna hit a particular spot for me since yours truly is one himself, which actually I will be making my own personal horror stories of the unfortunate events I've experienced with that and other topics that have affected me for my sub-specials. Well, some of them at least. Either which way, I have a lot of videos I have to make up for since I've been rather silent as well. Now, that will be addressed all in the announcement, but for now, stay tuned for what's to come, 'cause we're always watching